Welcome back to the activation phase. This is Tim, and I'm here with JP. Say hi, JP.
Hi, JP.
Hi, JP.
Oh, classic.
Cool. Didn't expect that one. So, I guess we're doing Vikings today.
You are indeed the OG faction of the OG book.
Hell yeah.
I think there's been a lot of complaints about the Vikings, but we're going to ignore them.
What complaints? I don't know any.
Yeah. I feel they are an OP faction.
Yes, very.
They're very powerful. They've been winning quite a few tournaments recently, actually. So I think people are finally getting back to them and having a fresh look. Kind of like the first faction that people pick up. And I think people get discouraged because they're not as good as what people expect in their mind. Then there's a lot of shiny other factions which you can use your models for.
Yeah.
And people move on to that and kind of get taken away into like a rabbit hole of Saga, different factions, and then they kind of forget the original faction. But I think they're actually pretty decent, and you don't think they're a pushover like people tend to say.
I think if you want to play them correctly, they're more difficult to play than you expect, and you have to make very good trades. And so, yes, and this faction being the one that's probably played by the most new players, sometimes can bring that image. But let's talk about them today and find out how good they actually are and how good we think they are. And as always, we'll give them a rating in the end to sum it up. So, JP, do you want to start us off with a little bit of history, just a tiny bit as always?
I think everyone knows about the Vikings.
Who are they?
What am I going to say that's new?
Okay.
Basically,
that's good.
Some dudes living in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
People debate like how far into Scandinavia these guys were. So I'm not going to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
It's, generally Denmark, Sweden, Norway, hanging out there, raiding people, stealing things, generally having a good time.
Cool, perfect.
So I think that's enough for Saga.
Yeah, cool. All right, do you want to just go straight into the equipment options then for us?
Yeah, I think we should probably address that they have, even though they're like the most basic faction, they actually have a special troop type, which is one of the few ones in Age of Vikings. So they have the Berserkers, which is awesome. So essentially with Berserkers, you can choose to switch 1 point worth of Hearthguard to Berserkers. And the trade-off there is that they get 4 aggression in melee. However, they drop their armor from 5 to 3. So they're basically like naked dudes running around, super angry. And you can only have 4 of them, basically.
I mean, sounds pretty Viking to me.
Definitely sounds Viking. It also makes it a very interesting option. So, except for that, the equipment options are actually incredibly boring. So you have your Warlord, which is just on foot, with no special equipment. Hearthguard, unless you choose Berserkers, are also just the standard stats. So 5 in melee, 5 in against shooting, and 2 aggression. And then you also have your Warriors, no special equipment options. And levies are the only options you have. So you have either bows or javelins. Then nothing special there. So nice and simple. I think it's kind of like it helps the beginner feel of the faction.
Absolutely. It also just means you can basically build any mini, and since there's no optional rules here, your Hearthguard can wear whatever and still be the normal Hearthguard without having any problems on the battlefield. So that works.
Definitely. And also it helps that most of the other Viking factions like Jom's Vikings or Pagan Rus and really Norse Gales, but kind of a little bit, have basically the same options. So the Pagan Rus are 1-for-1 switch. Actually they can't have bows on the levies, but everything else is the same. So that's pretty useful.
Yeah, for sure. That's it also just that's definitely what makes it happen, that people just switch off. And I did too, by the way. I got Vikings and then switched into Norse Gales because I thought they were cooler and had more shiny abilities. So yeah. So I guess you want to go into the battle board then and
Sure
start us off
thing.
there?
All right, so the basic abilities up top are nice and simple. So you have your standard activations for your guard and heroes, your warriors, levies. Combat bonus, absolutely nothing different here. Activation pool, exactly the same as you would expect. So nice, vanilla, boring, basic abilities.
And then the first ability, the first advanced ability is called Njord. It's an activation ability that takes a rare. And it says, remove a fatigue from each unit within medium of your warlord. And this removed fatigue is from each unit, not just friendly, but each unit. So, of course, you can use this to refreshen your army after your army made a big charge or after something got wiped out and you need to clear off the fatigue. But that also means if the unit that wiped that unit out is still there, then they'll also lose their fatigue. So some careful positioning for your warlord is needed here to get the most out of it without helping your opponent too
Yeah,
much.
I think this is also probably one of the most confusing abilities because people don't expect it to be played like this. So
Yeah,
it does actually say in the explanation itself that this is exactly how it's intended to work. So it's pretty clear,
yeah. So
pretty
yeah.
clear. But anyway, all right. So the next one is Frig. This is using either a rare or a uncommon. It's a melee ability, so remove a fatigue from your unit or gain 3 attack dice. Again, what's going on with the fatigue here? It seems like it seems to be focusing on fatigue so far. So yeah, this is amazing. Like this basically means you can do a double move, which is fits nicely with the aggressive Viking vibe that we're going for here, and then start your melee without any fatigue. So that's great. Or it's like a nice little 3 attack dice. I don't know if I would play it, especially because you don't get a bonus for it for using rare here or anything like that. So it's basically just a slightly better combat bonus. But yeah, it's versatile. It's not too bad. Yeah.
I think, yeah, the fatigue removal really helps to make that combat that's very important, just make it work. So good ability. Next up is Heimdall. It's a melee ability that takes a common. Reduce your unit's armor by 1 to gain 5 attack dice. And this is another theme we'll see with this board. You're kind of sacrificing your own models to kill more models of your enemy, of your opponent. And I think this one can be good if you know your unit's going to be wiped anyway, or if it's just your 5 dudes into like a big block of theirs, and you know if you want to take a big chunk out or take the Saga dice because you know you're losing your dice anyway. So this can be good, but I think it's more situational than people realize because losing your own models kind of really hurts throughout the game. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, 5 dice is not something you get very easily. Normally. So yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, you also feel bad about like trading armor and stuff like that because you don't really have anything like with the Pagan Rust where you get a buff or
Yes
or you can raise it easily afterwards or anything like that. So it makes it a little bit iffy. But 5 dice, like yeah, if they have a fatigue and you're back to where you were.
Or if they closed ranks, of course, yeah. But if they drop dice, yeah, sure. But I think this one you have to kind of watch out when you play this. This isn't an AA picket for a common get 5 attacks and win the game. It's more complicated.
Yeah, definitely. Right. The next ability is Odin. This is a shooting reaction using 2 common dice. So the shooting unit takes as much fatigue as necessary for it to become exhausted. So there's been some questions in the past on this particular ability and when the fatigue gets placed and what it means. So essentially, your opponent gets to shoot. You play Odin. You place 3 fatigue on your enemies, or however much fatigue is necessary for them to become exhausted on the enemy unit, and then you as the Viking player can choose whether or not you actually want to use that fatigue during the shooting attack to increase your armor, or just leave it on there for the future so that the unit is actually exhausted. So It's a pretty powerful ability, especially if you're facing something like Normans or I guess even any composite bow armed factions. But it does mean that if you want them to be exhausted, you have to like just leave the fatigue there and then eat the shots during one turn. But very powerful. It does mean it is one of the few or one of the 2 dice abilities, so you're always having that little bit of a trade-off, but worth it to neutralize a powerful shooting unit.
Yeah, especially it definitely catches all like composite bows, as you just said. It's the like it's the bane of the existence of the Huns. It's just they have to keep on sacrificing units, or I guess pick one turn where they just accept Odin is being played and rush in with everything else. So yeah, definitely a good ability to just put down in the first turn, and then possibly just keep on and use your 6 dice to do stuff, but have this on if you know your opponent might want to shoot or has a big Death Star that could possibly shoot. And yeah, it's definitely a good ability. Next up is Asgard. It's an activation reaction that takes an uncommon die. Trigger after a unit has been activated to charge, but before the charge is resolved. Remove a fatigue from one of your units. So just keeping with the theme of removing some fatigue, you just take away a fatigue from any one of your units after they or any unit in your army has been charged, just to keep them fresh. Nothing really special, I think. And as the Vikings are very aggressive, you'll always have a unit up front that has a fatigue. So this is good. This is okay. I'm not sure how much I would play this.
I mean, it's good for your warlord as well if you have some fatigues on it, because you don't need to remove the fatigue from the unit that's being charged. It can literally be any one of your units. So in that sense, it's very flexible,
exactly.
like you said. So, keeps your warlord alive, keeps other units also up and running. So nice little thing for uncommon.
No, if this would allow to be triggered when being shot, I think that would be very, very, very nice for your warlord, and like kind of enable you to have a very aggressive warlord, because that doesn't work. But yeah. Go ahead.
So the next one again uses an uncommon dice. So this is Thor, a melee ability. So inflict an extra automatic hit for each 6 or more you rolled on your attack dice. I'm gonna have to check how this works with the new FAQ. They changed the wording. I don't think there's
it doesn't change anything. Yeah. It literally.
So luckily there, it doesn't change anything, like Tim said. Awesome.
Yeah, so even if you have like a +3 on your attack dice for whatever reason, there'll still only be a 6, but a 6 still works for this, so you'll still get double, or like get an extra automatic hit. And this is a great ability. Come on, look at them. Like, it's an uncommon for exploding 6s. I'll take that.
Yeah,
that's
amazing. Especially because you have lots of other abilities to get loads of attack dice. So you it works almost exponentially. So good time on this one.
Yeah, and the higher the armor your opponent has, the better this one is. So if you go into Hearthguard, you're gonna love this one. All right, next up is Ula. It's a melee ability that takes a common and uncommon die. You may reroll all your attack dice which do not score a hit. And this is a melee faction. A reroll has to be in here. It's expensive at 2 dice, but if you're going into Hearthguard or into a Warlord or any toughness 5, this is good. So it's expensive, but if you can pair it with something else that makes your attacks more potent, then this one is really powerful.
For example, a Thor. Just throwing this one out there.
Thor would work definitely. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So definitely expensive, but tasty, and combines well with some other abilities as well. All right. So the next one is Loki. This is using a common dice. It's a melee ability, and until the end of the melee, gain 2 attack dice each time the enemy unit triggers a Saga ability or uses one of your fatigues. This is definitely something you want to play first to shut down or discourage them from playing any other abilities. I also, as an opponent of the Vikings, I feel like this ability always makes me think more than I should about playing good abilities, even though like 2 attack dice
Yeah,
generally
yeah.
doesn't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things. But you always feel bad about giving your opponent like just attack dice. You're like, no, this
Like
doesn't
free
feel right.
things.
So it can kind of in the heat of the moment, it can definitely mess with your kind of like your inner calculation and inner rational calculator brain. But like generally, it's very nice, especially if somebody is relying on some kind of crazy combo, like Scots or some other faction like that, where you're playing 2-3 chained abilities. So yes, very nice.
I think it's perfectly named, to be honest. Being called Loki, like, and this being like the trickiest ability on here, that's just perfect. And I also think the real problem this ability has is that you play it and you don't know if you get like an actual value out of it. Sure, your opponent not playing any abilities might be because of Loki, or just because they can see you have it on. Like they know in one combat they can't play their abilities. So yeah, this one, spending a Saga die and getting nothing in return, can be a problem with the Vikings when they have to make everything work. All right, next up is Valhalla. It's a melee ability that can take any Saga die facing. Remove 1 to 3 warrior or Hearthguard figures from your unit. Gain 3 attack dice per figure removed, or 4 if you use a rare. And this one, I think, is a tough one, because removing your warrior figures obviously generates lots of attack dice, but the cases where this gives you an actual benefit, I think, are very, very rare. Because if you have 12 warriors and you start removing figures to gain attack dice for them, that's kind of frustrating, because you have a perfectly healthy unit which you're taking apart for these attack dice. So I'm not sure that's a great use of this ability. But if you have a small unit with only like 3 to 5 or whatever figures, which you think are going to die anyway, this doesn't even get full value, because you can't generate more than twice what your unit has anyway. So removing 2 figures and gaining 6 attack dice, or 5 or 4, it's never going to feel as rewarding. So I think this one's kind of difficult to play. I'm not sure. What do you think, JP?
I think it's he gets played a lot. It gets played with berserkers quite often, because they're going to die anyway, and you get the attacks. You get the extra attacks, but I think that's probably the most obvious use case, where you know they're going to die anyway. You might as well just get some extra juice out of them.
Let's be honest,
Look,
here, berserkers aren't good.
I'm trying here.
So,
I'm trying here, Tim.
I feel like, yeah, good. I feel like that doesn't make it better. Like making something that's not good like a little bit better doesn't. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead though. I think you're doing a great
job. Sure,
if it's
if it's a unit that's going to die anyway, sure. Like I would definitely just take them away and use Valhalla on them. But yeah. So that's kind of the case I would use it with. I wouldn't do it on Hearthguard or anything like that, because you don't get a buff on them anyway. You're using them.
Heimdall in that situation is just so much better. It's 1 die, and you have a chance that your guys will actually survive. Like the enemy actually has to throw good attacks that hit you, and you get a save, and you still get 5 attacks. Like if it's a small unit, I'm talking like 3 to 5 dudes. That's I think that's Valhalla's just flat worse than Heimdall.
It's a cool name, and you can use all 3 dice facing.
Yeah,
so
yes.
You're kind of it's tempting you to go there, and it's very, very fluffy.
Okay.
So
cool.
There is that. So
absolutely, go ahead. Go to the fluff. The main fluff all at right. The bottom right.
So talk us through it. This one is pretty sweet, actually. So it's using 2 rares. It's called Ragnarok. This is Order's ability. So until the end of the turn, the melee armor of all units is reduced by 1. All your charges are free activations, and Valhalla becomes a basic Saga ability. So first of all, I think this is probably one of the few abilities in Saga where they use bullet points, but I appreciate I appreciate it. I think
Oh,
it's very
yes.
helpful for formatting. So I wish they would have
Very
continued
easy
this
to
on
read.
other abilities. But that aside, so you do get 3 pretty sweet. Well, I'm not sure if they're buffs, but they are abilities. So changes. So
Changes.
changing your melee armor of basically your enemy as well is fun, especially if you're basically get to do all your charges for free. You have some nice abilities as well to reduce or remove fatigue from your own units. So that does help a little bit. But the reason that you're playing Ragnarok basically is that you want to do loads of free charges, go nuts, kill everything, and you basically hope you come out on top at the end. Again, like the 2 rare, I think I've
Yes.
maybe had this played once against me, because it's just so incredibly situational. There's no way of getting extra rares on this board, like with the Anglo-Danes or something with the noble lineage, where they can pull off the exhaustion relatively easily. So this is so incredibly situational, and kind of like the position where all your units are in a position to benefit from the free charges means you're kind of at the end of the game, which means you're probably not throwing 8 dice. So it becomes even more hard to pull this one off. But what do you think about this?
I think, yes, I think this is very hard to pull off. And if you can do it, it can be huge, of course, because your army is literally made to fight in melee. And if your opponent's army isn't made to fight in melee, then they're going to fall apart. Like Irish are just going to fall apart into Ragnarok. Like, no arguing there. The one problem I see is that Njord, the very good ability from the beginning, also takes a rare to remove all the fatigue around your warlord. And I think that's just such a great ability to keep your army going and stay fresh. And so having like 3 rares to play Njord and Ragnarok is kind of very, very rare, and no pun intended. And so I think that's the only reason this suffers. This could be I'm not sure. This could be a common and an uncommon and a rare, maybe. That would probably be fine. Because I think you're sacrificing so much of yourself as well. That, like, as you said, you're literally hoping to come out on top. It's not guaranteed or anything. So yeah, and Valhalla becomes a basic ability. That's a change. That's a buff, I guess. But that only works if you want Valhalla.
So it's a little bit. So yeah, unfortunately, like 2 of the 3 bullet points that make it kind of less good. Like reducing your own armor, although you'll probably get on top with that one. But yeah, Valhalla is it's okay.
Yeah, I mean this is cool. This works with mercenaries. So there's that. So if you have cool mercenaries and kind of do 3 points of mercenaries with Vikings and 3 points of Vikings, then your mercenaries suddenly charge for free. And if it's like the terrible mercenaries, which we can talk about here in a second, then I think this can be good. Yeah.
So
Very good.
your argument basically rests on not playing Vikings, but using the Viking board.
That's right. Yeah.
To be good.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I think this is a really good time to move on to discussing how we would actually run Vikings. You want to drop the spicy knowledge of the tournament optimal Viking build.
I'm not sure I have all the knowledge there, but I can definitely try to put in what I know. So I think the Vikings, they're not taking berserkers really helps, because they're armor 3/3, and delivering them into their target usually means they get in there with 1 or 2, usually 2 fatigues. It's kind of hard to keep your berserkers alive behind your warriors, while actually also keeping the warriors alive or doing something other than just pushing the warriors forward and then the berserkers. And so leaving the berserkers at home, I think it's a great start. I'm not saying don't ever take them. They're definitely a fun unit, but they're not the best unit, I think. Although, as you said, they work great with Valhalla, and they work really, really well with the Ragnarok. And so that's cool. So the warriors, I think, are where it's at for the Vikings. They just work. All the armor reductions hurt warriors way less than they would hurt the Hearthguard, and with the warriors can just easily get be at a 5 stack and gain 5 attacks, drop their armor by 1, and might even, if the opponent closed ranks, might even come out with 4 dudes remaining. So I think warriors are great here, and the idea that your warlord is this killing machine, I think, is not super appropriate for the Vikings. That doesn't seem to work, at least for me. Maybe I just can't make it happen. And I think they greatly benefit from very, very good mercenaries.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think we have a winning formula here. Though people, how do you feel about levies?
I think the bow levies, if your scenario kind of tells you to have something that can keep a back objective safe, they are an option. But I mean, JP, look at the board. There's nothing here to support any shooting, other than, of course, the combat bonus works great with shooting. So that there's that. So I think generally the javelin levies are better because they can keep moving, they can do stuff. They're a great screen for berserkers, actually, because they can shoot while moving up. And yeah, if they get charged, the berserkers just countercharge and kill whatever charged the levies, if that's still a good trait. And so the javelin levy, I think they're okay. The bow levy, I think they're very, very situational. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the option to switch between bow and javelins are pretty useful. A lot of times you do kind of benefit from having some shooting on there, just because you're fully foot or band. So I think the choice is nice, but I wouldn't blame you for just taking all warriors and just going that route either, and just overwhelming them with meat.
I think the Vikings really shine when you actually take the mercenaries with them. So there's a couple of good ones, but the shield maidens work really well with their Valkyrie, and then of course Ariel Sigvaldi works incredibly well. And I think we should let's go into that guy, because he can kind of make the Vikings work in ways that no other mercenary can. So
is this the official Jarl Sigvaldi deep dive?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, he works really well. I know we usually don't talk about the mercenaries that much, but he's just super good with them, so we should talk about them.
All right, take it away, because this is like way too much text for one mercenary for me.
I don't have the book in English, so I'm not taking it away.
All right. Okay. Take it away in German. Right. So Sigvaldi is actually a Jom's Viking chief, but he's a mercenary, so you can take him with your Vikings. So it's 1 point, and it's 4 figures. So this is basically, you have a model for Sigvaldi and his 3 other little Jom's Viking buddies who follow him around. And it's considered a Hearthguard unit. So Sigvaldi has an aggression of 4, and the other 3 friends of his have a aggression of 2, just like normal Hearthguard. So it's like a little bit like a heroic unit, where Sigvaldi is the last figure to be removed as a casualty, and basically you get to swap around Sigvaldi if you can't maintain your unit cohesion. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is actually the fury that he generates himself. So just like the Jom's Vikings, they generate fury tokens. However, it works a little bit differently. So at the beginning of the game, his unit generates 2 fury tokens, and it basically gains a new fury token at the beginning of each turn after every melee they take part in. Every shooting that targets the unit when they eliminate a unit in melee, after removing a figure as a casualty for each loss suffered. So that's pretty good. So lots of different ways of gaining fury. And at the beginning of your activation phase, the player controlling Sigvaldi may spend up to 3 fury tokens to give Sigvaldi's unit the following benefits until the start of his next turn. So this is worded slightly differently, but it'll all make sense.
You're doing great. Keep on going.
Once I read the table. So this is by far the most ridiculously long mercenary entry. So we keep going. So what can you do with all the fury tokens that you're amassing? So if you spend 0 Fury tokens, none. If basically no benefits. However, if the unit loses a melee, it betrays its employer, and from now on it counts as belonging to the opponent who won the melee. This effect lasts until the end of the game or until the Jarl betrays his new master. I'm not sure why you would ever do this, because you can basically get 1 token at the beginning of the turn. So okay.
Yeah, you can safely do this turn 1 just to kind of collect amass these the Fury tokens, because turn 1
you're unlikely to get
you're probably not going to be
lose a
charged.
melee.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yes. Yeah.
if you spend 1 Fury token, the unit benefits from the Resilience 1 and Determination special rules, which is great because you're basically saving yourself a Saga dice. If you spend 2 Fury tokens, as per 1 above, remove fatigue from the unit. The unit also gets +1 bonus to the result of each of its attack dice, in addition to the Resilience and Determination special rules. So you're just stacking the special rules. However, it gets even better. So if you decide to use 3 Fury tokens, you get the benefits of spending 1 and 2 tokens. So that's Resilience, Determination, remove fatigue, +1 bonus to your attack dice. And the unit's armor is also increased by 1 against both melee and shooting attacks. So basically you become a armor 6 unit in melee and shooting. You get +1 to your attack dice, you get resilience, you get determination, and you get to remove fatigue. That's pretty huge. So yeah, I think I vomited a little bit in my mouth right now.
Yeah, these guys are obviously absolutely amazing together with your warlord. Just having these guys walk around together, having Njord ability to remove fatigue if you need it, and also removing Hearthguard from your friendly unit to save your warlord, and giving them fury to make them even more powerful. That's just, there's no good target here. If you start targeting the Sigvaldi unit themselves, they're quite tanky, and so with they'll always have, if they're in reach for you to attack, they'll always have resilience, and at least resilience, I should say. And if you decide to attack the warlord, they can just take away 3 of the Hearthguard, and it's just a disgusting combo. What do you think about this combo, JP?
Like, why would you ever pay for 4 Hearthguard if you could just use this unit? It makes no sense, right? Like
yes.
Like there's no benefit. Like, sure, okay, you can use your board abilities, but the intrinsic abilities that they have themselves are so insanely good for no cost, and they can get determination, etc., really easily. It's just insane. So efficiency wise, this is a little bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, and then because these guys will have determination and actually have their own Saga abilities, that frees up, like on a usual turn, that frees up 1, 2, 3 Saga dice for the rest of your army, because these guys, you actually have their Saga abilities built into their stat block, and that just makes the Vikings a lot better if they can spend all the dice on just on 1 unit less. That's great.
Yeah. So this is I'm not sure I would say auto take, but it's definitely a very strong contender if you want to play the Vikings and really help yourself a little bit. So
yeah,
to think about.
And this is also kind of surprising. Some people, like, they don't expect Sigvaldi to be this great with the Vikings, but he really is. And so Vikings being a beginner warband, showing up with Sigvaldi, you know, that player knows what they're doing.
Or they've listened to the activation phase.
Yes. Or maybe that, yeah. Yeah, sure.
All right. So I think we've covered everything except for the model choice. This is probably one of the easiest, or I guess most difficult one.
Dude, everything.
To talk about. It's easiest because there's so many great options. It's difficult because there are so many options.
Yeah.
But really, like, you can go from the kind of comical proportion ones with War Games Foundry, from like the 1990s vibe, to ridiculously detailed plastic ones that look very modern with Victrix and everything in between. So
what do you think? What do you think is one perfect choice that you would say is exactly in between, but still a plastic kit
I
that you
think
could use for
your
this?
Gripping Beast Dark Age Warriors fit really nicely into this, especially if you're going for the warrior build.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
So
I'm
I'm
glad
glad we're getting
that's an
paid by Gripping Beast for this endorsement. But yeah, look, if we're talking about Age of Vikings, Gripping Beast Dark Age Warriors will literally sort you out for basically every single faction. So you can't go wrong if you're just dabbling in Age of Vikings and you want to do a little bit of everything and you don't mind painting lots of warriors. If not, Vikings from the Victrix range also pretty nice. However, I think you're struggling a little bit on the unarmored body front because a ridiculously large amount of them do have chainmail. So it depends how you feel about the abundance of chainmail in Viking armies.
They're a great combo with the Archers and Slingers kit. Like that, you have you made a video, I think, for that for our YouTube channel, and where you can actually like build your Archers and Slingers bodies with the Viking stuff.
So you get so many different arms and helmets in the Viking kit that you can very easily swap them with some of the archer kits, Viking archer kits, and basically have all the unarmored bodies you could ever want. So that's a pretty easy fix. If not, just type in Viking miniatures and you get like a billion different options. Enjoy.
There's like 5 Kickstarters every year. I'm not sure that's enough. Just in STLs, like in printable files or in metal. Just there's a lot of very, very cool models. I'm not sure we could ever try to list like even half of it.
Yeah. So how do we feel about the Vikings? How would how many drinking horns out of 5 would you give them?
I would give them, I think, 2.25 drinking horns out of 5.
All right.
Because I think they have some tricks and they're perfect to teach a beginner, and they're a great like starting point to get into Saga. But as a competitive warband, I think they only really work with the mercenaries, and I'm not sure those drinking horns that the mercenaries earn are supposed to be a part of the out of 5 scale for the Vikings.
Fair enough. Do you see yourself taking them to a tournament?
No.
All right, you answered that really quickly.
Yeah, no, I just don't know how to play them well enough to ever take them to a tournament. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I'm actually tempted to take them because then if I do badly, I can just blame it on the army. So convenient. But I think with the Sigvaldi, it would definitely make it pretty tasty, pretty spicy. And I have some young Vikings anyway, so it's a pretty easy switch. So who knows? Maybe.
And I think it's perfectly fine to bring Sigvaldi with the Vikings. Like no one can be mad at you for trying to bring a good mercenary with the Vikings. It's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Like that's fair.
Indeed. All right. Age of Vikings faction done in the box, finished. What's our next faction? While we're waiting for the FAQ 2020 midway through 2023. No pressure, Studio Tomahawk. No pressure.
I think I'd be down to do like the Last Romans. I think they're a great faction, and there's a bunch of cool factions waiting for us. I'm not sure which one we'll do next.
Indeed. Yeah, so many cool factions in Age of Vikings. Even though it's been out for a while now, it's still exciting. Still people finding new things, finding new ways to play factions. Pretty exciting.
It's just the staple book, right? That kind of made everything else spawn from it. Like, yeah, they introduced all these cool mechanics where the battle board isn't just normal but kind of special, and it just still works.
Cool. All right. Last room is next. We'll see when we can record. Between now and the end of time is all we're committing to.
Yes, that sounds perfect.
Thank you very much
Somewhere around
for listening to the activation phase. Always lovely to have you here. Thank you very much, Tim, for dropping some knowledge bombs, tactics, tips, and everything else.
Thank you, JP.
All right. Have a nice evening, guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Cheers. Like 5 minutes. I'll be right back and read.
I'm recording this. I'm going to put this in the.
Yeah, go ahead. I have explosive diarrhea and I need to take care of it. I'll be right back.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
All right, bye.